Hey guys, it's Samantha with Veramax Fitness. I wanted to share a more flowy and less traditional workout, I guess, because over the last few months, and especially in these quarantine days, I've been sitting at the desk a lot more than normal. Also, I've been watching a lot more Netflix and Disney Plus, so my body's definitely pretty achy in the sense that I'm in the sitting position a lot longer than normal. My workouts have been kind of inconsistent because I've been trying to plan different things to share with my clients, things that my clients can do or potentially do. So so my body is pretty achy. My upper back and shoulder range of motion is pretty limited. My hips are really stiff from sitting a lot. So I wanted to share this workout with you because it's a lot more flowy, a little bit more natural for me. Although in the video, I haven't done these movements in probably years. So I'm a little rusty, I'm a little shaky, and a little wobbly with the balance and the coordination of it all. But I do like these movements. These are some of my favorite things to do, especially with like just body weight workout content. So let me know what you think. Try it out. Obviously you want to, be careful with listen to your body. Be careful with your wrists, your hands, your shoulder settings. So just be very aware of how you're positioning your body, and that's going to help you in this particular workout. All right, try it out. Let me know what you think, and see you next time.
So here we're going to start with traditional jumping jacks. Just keep your shoulders nice and relaxed, stay nice and tall, and stay light on your toes. So be gentle on your joints. We're doing about 10 of everything. The next one is going to be a walkout to plank or inchworms. So however you want to call this one. I like to go in and out of a squat to get your hips warmed up. You can certainly do straight leg inchworms on your walkout, and you want to make sure you're hitting the perfect plank at the bottom position. So chest out, shoulders back, belly drawn in, and make sure you are looking ahead and not down towards your feet or your knees. So again, we're doing about 10 repetitions each. And this next one coming up are hip openers. So you want to stay nice and tall. Think of your standing plank. So your shoulders and your hip bones are facing forward the entire time. And your goal is to get your knee up, out, and around as big as you can without moving your hip bones. Then we're going to change it up and do 10 hip closers. So exactly the same thing, except you're starting with your knee back, up, and then forward. So next one up is a hip hinge. So you want to keep your back nice and flat. So it's like you're sitting your hips or tailbone back while your chest is aiming forward. And you're getting a hamstring stretch and your calf stretch. Next up, you're starting at a plank position. You're going to step forward with one foot. You can turn that leg out about 45 degrees if you want to get deeper into your hip. And then you're going to extend your top arm up to basically what would be a side plank if you didn't have your lunge in there. So get nice and tall, open up the chest, open up the shoulders, palm facing outward, and make sure your grounded foot is flat. The next one is going to be side lunges. So I like to start from the center, step out, and then step back in. I want to make sure that the landing foot is flat and you're sitting your hips back. You will get a hamstring stretch, but you'll also get an inner thigh stretch. This next one is a staggered stance, reach across. We don't have a name for this, but I like to go into a deeper lunge. Squeeze the glutes to get the hip opener at the front of the open hip, and then you're extending towards the front leg direction. So you're just keeping that side nice and open and making sure you're finding a stretch into the waistline and in the hip of the leg that's stepped back. This next one coming up is hip opener, you're going to go down into a super low squat. So you want to make sure your feet are flat, and obviously only do this if you're able to get the range of motion. Or you can also do a variation of this, whatever range of motion you're comfortable with. You can have a little stool behind you or a ball behind you to do a more shallow squat. I'm changing this up to still sink into the hips, but I'm adding my upper body, just getting my upper body and shoulders used to that overhead position. So now it's a full body movement. The next thing, you're going back into that deep squat. If you can grab your foot as leverage and then with that bottom arm kind of push against your knee, opening up just like that side plank position you did before. This is a big thoracic stretch or spinal twist, chest and shoulder opener, and you're using your lower legs and hips as leverage. You are still stretching into the hips, so you're just kind of making sure that your hip position is nice and comfortable enough. With this one, you do want to go into more of a goddess position if you've done yoga before. A wider stance. You can push against your knees on this one because you're kind of assisting your inner thigh and hip stretch, but you're also getting a lot of that spinal rotation. It's an awkward movement, but it feels really, really good. So I would try that out. I think I have a couple more here. So standing nice and tall, about feet are about shoulder distance apart. Think of this as a side extension, the one that you're opening up and stretching, versus a side bend. So your focus is more on the open side and not so much on the side that's crunching down. So think of elongation. And as you can see, I'm kind of grabbing my opposite wrist to kind of assist in that extension. I'm also adding a rotation. So you do want to stay nice and long for this movement, so that way your spine doesn't rotate in a funny way. It's nice and long. So now we're going to move into the main part of your circuit. I usually start at a child's pose and then shift my way into a plank. Then I can figure out my footing and where my hands are. So this one is plank to down dog reach. So I'm reaching one arm to the opposite foot when moving into the downward dog position. I do want to make sure that I'm getting fully into that plank as you go forward, and then a full downward dog position. So big stretch in the hamstrings, reach toward the opposite foot. Even if you can't reach your foot, just reach in that direction. The next thing is from the plank position, you're going to kick one leg all the way through and across. And your range of motion is about 90 degrees. So you're kind of aiming for the side wall with that foot. You can touch your foot or not. If you need a little bit of assistance, you can just scoot that leg and then tap the floor next to you, like to the side of the mat, if that makes it a little bit more accessible. Otherwise, challenge your balance and reach that leg out. The next thing is going to be basically what would be like a floating child's pose. So your knees don't go down, but you are going right back into your plank again. So this is a lot of time in supporting yourself on your shoulders and your hands and your wrists. So take your breaks as much as you need. I'm doing about 10 repetitions of each of these things. So you're sinking back all the way into that kind of floating child's pose position, arms extended all the way, and then full plank at the very top position. So now we're moving into one of the lunge variations that I'm doing in this circuit. So you can certainly do the side lunge, alternating side lunges like we would normally do in the warm-up, but this time with the back leg, I'm scooping my leg out and around. So I'm trying to make a more circular motion with that back leg traveling to the side again. This part is going to be a little bit more challenging, requiring a little bit more coordination. I had to remember what I was doing. But you're going to sink back, leaning into the back leg. When you shift forward, that back leg with momentum, as you shift forward, is going to scoop out and around. So again, we're continuing the trend of the circular pattern. So if you do this nice and controlled in both directions, you will definitely feel that you will need to recruit your lower core and your waist in order to control where your hip position is swinging your leg. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, you can ask me. But because my hips have been so tight and kind of achy, I wanted to get some more flowy motion into the hip area. It incorporates your core a little bit differently. It's just a different movement than we normally do in our strength training workouts here at the gym. And then I think I finish off with another set of those circular lunges. And I can put exactly what I'm doing down in the description as well. But I took these moves from Capoeira, so if you've ever heard of Capoeira, then you can Google that. I'll certainly put it down into the description below. So we're going to go back onto the floor, onto all fours, and shifting back into your downward dog. So you do want to find the perfect downward dog that you can. This was a little hard in socks, but I didn't want to stop the set, so you may or may not want to do this in socks. Think of this as a downward dog, and it's kind of like you're diving down as close to the floor as you possibly can. And once you get as close as you can with the top of your head or even your nose, then you're just going to scoop all the way up and open into basically what would be an upward dog. I use a lot of yoga references because I like their positions, and some of the cueing is sometimes obvious. So if you saw Chica in the background, she actually did a downward dog. Perfect timing. But again, I'm doing about 10 of these and staying nice and controlled in both directions. You're only working with the range of motion you have. So as I get tired, you're going to see me, my range of motion downward get a little bit more shallow every time. The next one, we're going back into your all fours position on the ground. And then you're going to hover your knees over the ground. So you're still on all fours with your knees hovering just above the ground a couple inches. When you kick your opposite leg through, you're just reaching that leg up and out. With your upper body, pretend like you're doing a row. So you're pulling that elbow straight back by your rib cage and your waistline. So you are pulling and actively engaging your lats and your upper back in that pulling motion, even though you're not pulling against any resistance. We're going to move back into the standing or the lunge variations. This time I'm adding a straight kick. For this particular kick, it's kind of like you're pushing something in front of you with the bottom of your foot, or you're pushing with your heel, or you're kicking with your heel. So you're moving with more circular or smooth transition to each lunge, but your kick is going to be tall, and then your kick is also going to be straightforward and pretty quick. And after every kick, your leg is stepping back into that lunge position. So you don't really have too much of an in-between step. You're just going from the kick back into the lunge. I've transitioned this into a more circular and outward kick. So it's very similar to the hip openers that you did in the beginning, but much bigger, much taller. And you're just trying to stay as big and smooth as you can in your kick, and then also into your landing. And that's it. So there you have my movement flow circuit of certain moves that I personally like and love to do. Try it out. I would do about 3 to 5 rounds of that entire main circuit. So just know that you have a warm-up set, and then you have like the circuit stuff, the planks and lunges. Try it out. Let me know what you think. Take a selfie when you're doing your workout. Tag us, and we'll see you next time.